Good evening, everyone. I'm Chelsea Monique from the Group 5. We're here to talk about historical antecedents in which social consideration changed the course of science and technology, particularly on the tools and invention on different periods.
I'm Jimolo Aaron A. Galicia,
I'm Chelsea Monique C. Cayetano.
I'm Mark R.G. Rivera,
and
And
we
and
we
we
are
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 the
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 Group
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 5.
5.
5.
Here are the topic outline. We will talk about the prehistory, history, projections, and today. First is prehistory. This is the period of human history sa pagitan ng paggamit ng first stone tools ng mga hominid. This is 3.3 million years ago or long BC. Prehistory is before civilization and writing. Napakalaking yugto ng panahon na ito dahil nga wala pang written records na kinabibilangan katulad ng panahong Neolithic Revolution, Stone Age, Ice Age, at saka Denisovans. So, the prehistory is from the ancient Greek word pre means before and history means historia. Here are some examples of tools and development during prehistory period. So, this is fire and weapons. Later on, we will talk about fire and weapons.
And for the next topic, we have history. First, let's talk about what is history. History is the study of past events. Ito yung pag-aaral ng mga makabulahang pangyayari na naganap sa nakaraan. And paano mo naman masasabi kung yung event na yun ay part siya ng history or part siya ng prehistory? Part siya ng history kapag yung event na yun ay nangyari after ma-invent yung writing system o kung yung event na yun ay may written records na nagsasabi nga o nagpapatunay na nangyari talaga yon. Isang example nito yung first and one of the earliest and one of the greatest invention ng humans, yung wheel nga o yung gulong. Yung civilization na nag-invent ng wheel ay yung Sumerians nga. Meron na silang writing system na tinatawag na cuneiform. Yun nga, nagsusulat sila sa mga clay tablets and maaring dun nga natin nalaman or yun dahil doon na pag-aralan natin na sila yung nag-invent ng wheel. In this period, humankind then advanced from a primal behaviors by developing processes to advance human autonomy. Dahil nga sa time period na ito, na-secure na ng mga humans yung primary needs nila, including nga yung food. So now, they use their knowledge and technology to improve their lifestyle. Dito nagsimula na sila mag-isip at bumuo ng mga bagay-bagay na maaaring makatulong sa kanila para mapadali yung pamumuhay nila. And for the next slide, we have the example of tools and development made during this period. Yung first natin sa list, yung wheel o yung gulong. Next, yung writing, watermill, gunpowder, printing press, optical lens, and lastly, yung steam engine. Makikita nyo nga sa list na to yung development ng nagawa ng humans sa technology or science man yan. And yung mga invention nga na to, pwede to mag-cause ng great effect or good effect. And pwede naman din to mag-cause ng bad effect or terrible effect. Pwede natin tong ma-apply dun nga sa gunpowder. Depending on use, pwede itong makatulong sa tao sa mga gawain nila, including nga yung construction and mining. And if di naman natin ginamit to sa mabuti, pwede itong makasama or makasakit ng tao. Kaya naman, in these lessons, we're going to go through few of the most significant technological innovation na nagawa ng human and paano nila binago yung history na alam natin.
We then advanced from the initial processes for human autonomy to fully automated systems from mechanization and mass production, which was paved the way today. So today era began on 18th century up to today, or rather the present. So So this period is where Industrial Revolution arose, and at this point, a sudden change in history occurred. So, out of curiosity, what is Industrial Revolution? The process of transformation of the agrarian society and handicraft economy to industrialized. So let me give you a brief example, a brief history of the Industrial Revolution. So it was first started in Britain on 18th century and afterwards spread towards Europe and the United States. However, Eastern Europe faced a bit delay in the developments due to their political situation and somehow got left behind by their counterparts. Meanwhile, in Asia, they were far more worse than that. They were actually having difficulty in adopting this new way of life. In fact, Western countries were already undergoing the second phase of the revolution when Asia first started its first phase. But at the end of the third phase, they eventually caught up and made a significant progress. So that's on. Let's move on. So next is four. There are four phases of Industrial Revolution, and each one of them contributed a lot in the developments of the present world. So the first one is mechanization. Second is mass production. Third is automation, and fourth is machine learning. So later on we will discuss these four. Industrial Revolution made a lot of change. A change took place in several sectors, such as the politics, the economy, the society, and even the world itself changed. And during this era, there were an increase in wealth, the production of goods, and the standard of living. So life became more easy, but in exchange, humans became more like a tool in the process. So lastly, began to depend on technology. So from here, people started to show more interest in this so-called technology. So that's all for the summary of the today era.
Projections. An estimate of forecast of a future situation or trend based on a study of present ones. Now, we are at the time humankind is at prime of autonomy, where even higher functioning processes. So, mataas yung processes natin na mag-function na pwedeng ma-allocate to machines. Marami tayong pwedeng ma-invent or mga inventions na ngayon sa new technologies, na maaari nating magamit yung new technologies para makapag-invent ng mga machines. So, it's time to adapt ng new technologies and prepared para sa digitally disruptive era. So, here are the examples of projections na pwedeng ma-develop in present world. So, first is artificial intelligence, next is autonomous system, and third is centralized economy. Prehistory, tools, and invention. First is fire. So, what is fire? Fire happens kapag ang material is ignited and combined with oxygen, resulting in combustion. Lahat naman siguro sa atin nakakita na ng fire or apoy. So, familiar na tayo kung anong itsura nun. Kaya naman, ito ay nagre-resulta ng light, heat, and visible effect. Kaya marami rin itong tulong sa atin. So, alamin natin kung saan nga ba galing or kailan nga ba nagsimula ang discovery ng fire. Fire discovered in long BC. At sa oldest record, na-identify ang fire from charcoal in rocks. So, yung fire daw, nakita nila sa isang rock dahil dun sa may charcoal yung rock. Parang sinasabi nila, meron daw gumamit nun upang mag-campfire or magluto dun mismo sa stone na yon. And it is during the late Saurian period. Some anthropologists propose na ang mga Homo erectus might cook. The earliest evidence for fire today ay ang nakita sa Wonder Work Cave in South Africa. That was 1 million years ago. So, matagal na din. Anthropologists found burnt bones and plants and complex stone tools. Since prehistory pa ngayon, wala pang mga written records about this. Pero dahil sa mga evidence na nakita ng mga archaeologists, dun na sila nagbe-base kung saan galing ang fire. So, next is, ano nga bang naging effect ng fire? Ang naging effect ng fire noon at ngayon is protection and hunting. They were able to protect themselves sa weather. Sa cave nga nakita ang mga fire, so they're suggesting na ginamit ito to keep them warm. And also, able to devise new way of hunting. Ginagawa din nilang new way of hunting yung fire na yon. Next, sa prehistory ay ang weapons. So, what is weapons? A thing designed or used for inflicting bodily harm or physical damage. A means of gaining an advantage or defending oneself in a conflict or contest. We all know naman na ang weapons, ginagamit siya sa pakikipaglaban or paghahanap ng mga things. So, when was weapons discovered or invented? Ang weapons na ginagamit nila noon ay stone tips. So, ito yung one of the earliest forms of weapons. It is assumed by archaeologists dahil dun sa nakita nilang animal blood dun sa isang stone tips, dating around 64 years. Ito ay sa Natal or now called South Africa. What are the effects of weapons? Hunting and defense. They used to hunt animals for food and defense for some harmful creatures. Next is history tools and invention. Una is ang wheels. We all know naman at lahat naman siguro tayo nakakita na ng wheels or gulong. So, this is circular object that revolves on an axle below vehicle for object to move easily. When was the wheels invented? The wheels invented 14th millennium BC in the lower Mesopotamia, when yung mga Sumerian people inserted rotating axle into solid discs of wood. So, doon nag-start yon. Nag-invent sila, naglagay sila ng wheels dun sa isang discs of woods. So, woods. Tapos doon nila nag-discover yung kung paano gumamit ng wheels para hindi sila mahirapan to transfer some goods, to carry out some foods, gano'n. May evidence din na ang wheel was created to serve as potter's wheel around 3,500 BC sa Mesopotamia din. So, yung may evidence na create daw una yung wheels sa potter's wheels, which is yun yung iniikot para makagawa tayo ng isang pot. So, dun nag-start or dun nagsimula yung wheels. What are the effects of wheels during that period? They use wheel to move heavily objects. Yung mga mabibigat na objects, dinadala nila doon sa may wheels na bagay para roll over, tapos madali na lang nilang malipat. Then, para din makarry nila yung goods, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, para makarry nila yung goods and foods from different places. And then, used din para may masakyan yung mga tao before. At sa sledges and rafts. Next is writing. So, what is writing? Writing is the process of using symbols, letters of the alphabets, punctuation, and spaces to communicate thoughts and ideas in a readable form. So, this is the history period na. So, meron ng mga written records and mga written form. Doon nag-start yung writing, which is ang pinakaunang writing is yung cuneiform, which is doon sila sa clay tablet nagra-write ng mga symbols. When was writing invented? So, full writing system appear to have been invented independently at least 4 times in human history. So, before, ito yung pinakauna sa Mesopotamia, wherein cuneiform, yung gaya sabi ko kanina, cuneiform, yung clay tablet, doon sila nagsusulat. Parang rock yung itsura. Then, that was between 3,400 and 3,300 BC. And then, shortly afterwards, sa Egypt din, around 3,200 BC. So, what is the effect of writing? Example na lang natin yung sa history. If walang written word or written record, for sure, wala tayong alam about the past. Wala tayong physical evidence about the past. History is impossible without the written word, as one would lack context in which to interpret physical evidence from the ancient past. Writing records of the lives of a people and so is the first necessary steps in writing history of a culture and civilization. Next is watermill. Ito ay isang mill na gumagamit ng hydropower. This uses a water wheel or water turbine to drive mechanical process tulad ng milling, rolling, or hammering. So, when was watermill invented? So, it is originated in the 3rd century BCE sa Greek Byzantium. Pero yung iba, nakikipag-argue sila na invented daw ito sa China during Han Dynasty. Dahil Philo of Byzantium is debated as the inventor of watermill. Dahil siya daw yung first to reference nung nag-create nun. Pero walang proof na siya nag-come up with the design. But then, the first reference to a watermill dates way back 4000 BCE is si Roman engineer Vitruvius and using vertical water wheel during Roman times. The effect ng watermill is some grinding grain, forging bellows, power tensile mills, power sawmills, crop irrigation, and water supply. Yun yung gamit ng watermill during that period. And also, nakakatulong din to sa lives ng mga bawat tao noon. Dahil yung watermill nga is water supply din, which is, alam naman natin na ang water is very important to our lives. The next tools will be discussed by Mark R.J. Rivera.
For the next tool, we have gunpowder. First, let's talk about what is gunpowder. Sinasabi na yung gunpowder daw ay isang mixture of saltpeter or potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal. And together, kapag minix natin to and inignite natin, pwede itong mag-burn rapidly and explode. Ito nga yung kadalasan natin ginagamit ngayon sa mga baril para i-propel yung bala o yung bullets. Next, let's move to when was gunpowder invented? Sinasabi na yung gunpowder was first invented in 9th century. It was invented or discovered by Chinese monks kung saan habang gumagawa sila ng life-extending elixir, ay na-discover nga nila yung main ingredient nga nito, yung saltpeter. Yung saltpeter kasi dati, yung sa century na yon, ginagamit siya for medicinal purpose. Kaya nga siguro sa paghahalo at paghahalo ng iba't ibang mga materials, na accidental na nilang na-mix yung gunpowder. And in 10th century, ginagamit nila gunpowder for fireworks and signals. And between 10th to 12th century, dito na nila first na-apply yung gunpowder para sa mga weapons nila. Dito na develop nila yung hokyang or fire lance. Sinasabi na ito ay short-range photogun. Para lang talaga tong sibat kung saan sa dulo nito may cylinder kung saan mo lalagay yung gunpowder tsaka yung projectile. Yung projectile na pwede dati dito ay yung arrows or yung palaso na ginagamit sa pampana or pwede din naman na mga maliliit na pieces of metals. And in late 13th century, dito na nila na-invent talaga yung baril. Pero kung makikita nyo sa picture, para siyang upgraded version lang ng hokyang or fire lance. Ngayon lang, gawa na siya sa brass or iron. Next, let's move to the what effects did the inventions of gunpowder have? First, gunpowder made the construction and destruction of land easier and cheaper, allowing canals, roads, and railways to be constructed. Ito nga, pwede natin example dito nung 17th century sa Europe, ginagamit nila yung gunpowder for mining and for construction. Ginagamit nila to para nga sirain yung mga malalaking bato or obstacles na nasa daan. Next, the inventions of developments of firearms changed the tactics and strategies of warfare. Dahil nga naman sa range and firepower ng mga barel, kung i-compare mo to sa mga cold weapons o yung mga espada or swords nung ginagamit dati, kahit gaano pa kakapal yung armor mo o yung paano ka pa kagaling sa espada or swords, isang baril lang sa'yo, pwede ka nang mamatay or ma-seriously injured. Kaya nagbago talaga yung mga tactics and strategies ng warfare nun. Next, play a significant and destructive role during the age of exploration and colonial expansions. Dito sa time na to, na-misuse nga yung power or na-misuse yung technology ng gunpowder. Isang example dito yung American and European colonialism. Masasabi mo na isa din tayo sa naapektuhan nito or victim dahil nga sa mga ancestors natin. Noon sinakop tayo, gamit lang natin mga bolo or itak. And yung kalaban naman o yung mga Spaniards, meron na silang mga baril. Kaya sa time talaga nito, maraming namatay dahil sa gunpowder at marami din yung naapi. And next, we have printing press. Printing press is a machine by which text and images are transferred from a movable type to paper or other media by means of ink. Yung sinasabing movable type dito ay para siyang stamp or pantatak. Ito isa siyang block made of different materials. Pwede siyang wood, metal, and clay. Doon yung block na yon meron siyang na-carve or nakaukit na mga text or symbols. And yun, pwede siyang palitan, pwede siyang rearrange, pwede siyang reuse. Kaya dahil doon, naging possible yung mass production ng mga different texts katulad ng books, pamphlets, and newspaper. When was printing press invented? In the year of 1045 AD, the first movable type of baked clay was made in China. It was developed by Baisheng. The first movable type was carved into a clay and baked into a hard blocks that were then arranged onto an iron frame that was pressed against an iron plate. Yung dito, makikita nyo sa picture, i-arrange lang siya sa parang frame. Doon lalagay mo na yung pag-arrange ng mga letters o yung sentence na gusto mong isulat or i-reprint. Then, lalagyan mo na siya ng ink. And yung papel, lalagay mo siya sa isang metal plate. And after that, ipipress mo na lang yung nakalagay ng mga movable types. And after that, meron ka ng copy ng gusto mong isulat. Next, what effects did the invention of printing press have? Number 1, printing press allowed ideas and news to be shared quickly. Dahil nga naging possible na yung mass production ng mga books and newspaper, mas napapadali na yung ipakalat yung mga ideas and information na alam natin. Mas naging accessible na. Number 2, improved education. Dahil nga mas na-expose na tayo sa mga newspaper, journals, magazine, and yung mga books, tumaas yung literacy level natin. And sa time din na to or sa period na to, maraming mga library yung napatayo. Advanced Renaissance. Dito nga sa time na to, naging possible na i-reprint or i-mass produce na yung mga classic o yung mga gawa ng mga works nila Plato, Aristotle, and others, mga classic thinkers. And dahil din dito, mas nag-improve or mas napabilis yung development ng science natin at technology. Next, we have optical lens. What is optical lens? Yung optical lens, ginagamit daw to for various imaging devices like telescope, binoculars, and cameras. Ginagamit din to as visual aids for glasses. Ito ay ginagamit para i-correct nga yung defect natin sa vision. Kunyari yung farsightedness and nearsightedness. Next, when was optical lens invented? Sinasabi dito na yung naka-invent daw ng optical lens ay si Salvino di Armate. And in-invent niya to noong year of 1285. And sinare niya daw yung invention niya sa isang monk na may name ni Alessandro de la Spina. And dahil si de la Spina yung nag-made ng public nung invention na yon, siya yung kadalasan na nakikredit about the invention of eyeglasses. Yung sinuunang glasses, makikita nyo sa picture, kadalasan yung frames niya ay gawa sa metal or kaya naman sa bone. And yung lens niya ay gawa sa quartz. Kasi at that time, wala pa tayong technology or hindi pa natin na-invent yung paggawa ng clear glass. What effects did the invention of optical lens have? Eyeglasses. Yun nga, kinokorek nito yung defects sa vision natin. Microscope, revolutionized medicine and biology. Pinaka-main dito yung pagkaalam natin yung napatunayan natin yung existence ng microorganism. And telescope, develop astronomy. Dahil nga dito, dahil nga sa telescope, mas na-observe na natin yung mga moon, stars, and sun natin, yung heavenly bodies, yung sinasabi nga nila. And yung naging nalaman natin dito, yung major discovery, na hindi sa Earth nagre-revolve yung mga heavenly bodies, at mas malapit ito na nagre-revolve sa sun. Next, we have steam engine. What is a steam engine? It is a machine using steam power to perform mechanical work through the agency of heat. Yung pinaka-main idea nga dito, yung from boiling water, nagpo-produce ng steam. And by using yung steam engine, transform natin yung steam power o yung pressure na nanggagaling doon into yung mechanical power. When was steam engine invented? Sinasabi na yung earliest steam engine ay naggawa na nung 1st century pa lang. And tinatawag siya na aeolipile. But until 17th century, doon pa lang natin time na doon pa lang natin sinubukan i-harness o gamitin yung power na yon for practical purpose. And nung in the year of 1698, Thomas Savery patented a pump with a hand-operated valves to raise water from mines by suction produced by condensing steam. Ito ang makikita nyo sa picture, yung unang steam engine na nagawa, at ginamit siya for yung unang practical purpose na ginamit siya yung para i-raise yung tubig na galing sa mines papunta sa surface. What effects did the invention of steam engine have? It brought a new source of power used in manufacturing and machinery. Yung dating mga factories and facilities nga, dati pinapatayo to malapit sa mga water source, katulad ng mga river, ganon. Dahil nga yung source of power nila ay nagmumula sa mga watermill. Kaya nga nung pag-invent ng steam engine, pwede na sila magpatayo kahit saan. Dahil hanggat may stable source sila ng fuel, pwede sila mag-manufacture ng mga kahit anong product na gusto nila. It revolutionized commercial transportation. Dahil nga dito sa pag-invent ng steam engine, meron na din mga transportation na steam engine powered, katulad ng mga train, and meron din mga boats na steam engine powered. Doon, mas napabilis na yung transportation ng mga products, and mas napabilis na din yung transportation ng mga tao. It leads to the depletion of fossil fuel, and were one of the main causes of pollution. Yun nga, dahil nga gumagamit yung steam engine na mga fossil fuel katulad ng coal, nag-cause ng depletion ng reserve natin. And dahil nga doon, dahil nagbo-burn tayo ng fossil fuel, ito yung mga naging main cause of pollution. Next, let's proceed to today's tools and invention. First, we have mechanization. What is mechanization? It is use of machine, either wholly or in part, to replace human or animal labor. It requires human participation to provide information or instruction. Dito, kahit gumagamit na tayo ng machine para nga replace yung ibang human and animal labor, kailangan pa din natin ng mga tao dito para mag-operate ng mga machine or magbigay ng instruction. When was mechanization invented? Sinasabi na yung mechanization ay nagsimula nung first part of industrialization. And nung late of 18th century, nagsimula na silang i-introduce yung mechanical production facilities to the world. Water and steam-powered machines were developed to help workers in mass production of goods. Dito nga, yung mga machine na ginagamit dito ay gumagamit ng steam engine and gumagamit din ng power mula sa water wheel. And ito nga yung unang product or unang device or machine na in-apply ng mechanization. Yung first power loom was developed by Edmund Cartwright in 1784 and completed in 1785. And kilala din si Edmund Cartwright for his inventions niya na nag-develop sa textile industry sa England. Ito makikita nyo sa picture, yung invention niya, yung power loom. Kung i-compare nyo yan sa traditional loom, na kinakailangan na maraming tao para makapag-produce ng isang fabric, dito kailangan na lang ng tao dito na mag-ooperate ng machine. What effects did the invention of mechanization have? Number 1, increase in production efficiency and skill. Dahil nga dito, gumagamit na tayo ng mga machine, and kaya nag-increase na yung production natin. Kung ikukumpara mo na puro tao or puro human lang yung laborer natin, kailangan pa nila ng break para nga ma-maintain yung ma-maintain yung quality ng product or ma-maintain yung quality ng work nila. Sa paggamit ng machine, tuloy-tuloy yung trabaho or tuloy-tuloy yung production. And dahil nga sa pag-angat ng production efficiency, yung skill din ng business na yon ay lumalago. Reduce labor expenses. Dito naman may positive and negative effect na to. Yung negative effect nito ay maraming tao ay nawalan ng trabaho. And yung positive naman kunyari sa owner nito, sa owner ng may business, nababawasan na yung laborer nila, yung kailangan nilang laborer. Kasi yung laborer na lang sa time na to, kailangan na lang sila para nga i-operate yung machine, and minsan kailangan din sila para sa mga complex work na hindi kaya ng mga machine. Better quality and consistency of outputs. Nagkakaroon na ng standard quality yung mga products dahil machine na yung gumagawa. Isang machine na yung gumagawa. And kung i-compare mo sa maraming tao yung gumagawa, paiba-iba din yung quality. kaya walang consistency nga. And that is the end of my part. The rest will be discussed by my groupmate, Jim Galicia.
Mass production, Second Industrial Revolution, started from 19th century up until 20th century. Under this is the discovery of electricity and assembly line production. Improve the following with more efficiency and less cost. Slaughterhouse for foods, automobile for vehicles for transportation, weapons used for war. The introduction of combustion engine system, which turned electricity, gas, and oil as the new source of energy. Beginning of exploitation in natural resources. So, as they moved to industrialization, their facilities and equipments started to improve, and in such a time, they began to be obsessed with natural resources. Factories became the new goods producers. So, numerous factories came to life when business people saw that industrialization was more profitable than the traditional one. At this period, people's lives were centered in the clock instead of the sun. So, factories before were normally operated by humans. So, with the emerging factories everywhere, the whole world became busy. Long distance transportation like expansion of railroads and etc. So as the openness of the world to one and another, a lot of different ideas and innovations showed up, and later on these were among the factors that led to advancement of technologies, including this invention of telecommunication. So next is automation, Third Industrial Revolution, started in late 20th century. So the spread of automation and digitization. Rise of electronics, specifically computers and programming. Invention of the internet. So this internet is literally made us closer and help us to unlock informations around the globe. The discovery of nuclear energy. So this is another discovery of new source of energy. Memory programmable control. So these are set of instructions stored in a machine for it to function the way it is meant to. Production processes can now be operated by automation without human assistance. So compared to the Industrial Revolution, Second Industrial Revolution, factories before they use humans to operate them, but here in Third Industrial Revolution, they no longer need humans as memory programmable controls can now be the one to control this kind of factories. So next is advancements in telecommunication, which enable the world to globalize. So that's all for the automation. Next, we move on from the machine learning, Fourth Industrial Revolution, the current era. So centralized mainly in the developments of the Third Industrial Revolution. You could say this as the continuation of the Third Industrial Revolution, but with a much innovation. Computer technologies that are applied in production facilities were enhanced into network connection. Also, the benefit of this is when it comes to maintenance, you will easily figure out the problem of the machine. Larger scale in digitalization. Devices became more smarter. So imagine having a device that acts almost like a computer and importantly has the mobility and you can use it everywhere. Next is starting to switch to renewable energy source. So since renewable energy source is environmental friendly, in this generation right now, environment is the biggest issue that we encounter the most. So do all the necessary measures to preserve the surrounding. So next is artificial intelligence. So although some types of AI are not yet complete, but still they remain in the process of development. So next is projection. So first one is artificial intelligence. So a product of the future. Smart machines capable to imitate the human intelligence, including behaviors. So AI are intended to match the level of humans in any aspects. Human workforce in the future is likely to be replaced by artificial intelligence simply because they have the capacity to perform a human task infinitely. So if I was if I was a business person, I would gladly choose the AI which could perform a task infinitely and will do more products, more efficient, and that would cost more profit. So there are 4 types of artificial intelligence, and the first is reactive machines. So reactive machines, coming from the name itself, reactive, which job is to only react or recognize the current scenario, and doesn't have the ability to create decisions real time, since reactive machine doesn't have the capability to store data. Limited memory, an artificial intelligence that has the ability to absorb data based on its observation and its experience in the environment, and thereafter make necessary adjustments. So next is theory of mind. So this is considered as a high level of technology advancement and artificial intelligence which is still not yet reached by humans in the present world. This AI revolves around the feelings and behaviors of a being, on how their emotions react in the environment without relying onto others, and making decisions through self-reflection. Self-awareness. An artificial intelligence similar to the level of human consciousness and wherein the capacity to understand its own existence in the world. The last step of AI, as it had managed to attain the human mind. So next is autonomous systems. Systems that can perform tasks without needing human operators. Examples, self-driving cars and autopilot system. So these systems have the capability to perform tasks, and they most rely on their sensors. And thereafter, they will react based on what they have discovered from their surrounding. New digital worlds. A new feature of technology creating an instinctive cyber-digital space. A different level of innovation in the course of technology. These are not the traditional machines that only perform activities towards the set range, but rather goes beyond from that. Its intelligence is capable of operating in accordance to what it finds or what it discovers. Next is, it also serves as a human aid. Autonomous systems are useful in many ways, even in vital situations. They can operate without placing another human life in danger, such as inspecting the inside of a nuclear reactor, checking whether if there is a fault or any necessary reparation, and other inaccessible areas. Next is centralized economy, referred to as a planned economy or command economy. So an economic systems administered by the government. So it is different from typical market economies wherein business and consumers make the decision. Mainly in this system, the government holds the decisions of the distribution and the production of goods. Next is intervenes in the market economy. The government uses it as a tool to intervene in the free market to control the demand. The government is responsible in setting the prices. Next is Soviet Union used this kind of economic systems. The one who are known in using this kind of economic system is the socialist and the communist, and specifically Soviet Union. However, it was a failure. It was inefficient. And soon after, it has been a factor that contributed much in the collapse of the Union. So that will be all for my report.
Here are the references of our topic. And that brings us to the end of our report.